Hello, my friends. Good morning. So, today I want to talk about a paradox, the paradox of brightness and darkness, right? Strength and weakness, uh, power and vulnerability, all of those kinds of things. And I want to start by going back to our book, right? So, Fridays are our book club. And here's our book, which was Tarana Burke and Brene Brown, You Are Your Best Thing. And it was an anthology of stories about well, let me read to you what it's about because that would be best. Vulnerability, shame, resilience, and the Black experience. Okay. So when I started reading this book, I was, blown away by the stories, of course, and having those feelings of like discomfort about addressing white privilege and the Black experience. And I don't want to really go into that today, although we have addressed it. What I want to talk about is what it opened up for me in my life and other parts of my life right now. Okay. So, I find it the paradox. So I'm going to wear yellow every single day of May to signify symbolically, if you remember, was the coming out of the COVID, uh, letting in sunshine and light. Okay. And then it's really been one of the toughest months for facing real life issues. And I was able to lean into a couple of the things that this book taught me. And that was about shame resilience, finding shame in those little corners of things that you have like no control over, but they are like realities and facts. And you still feel like you have to say, I'm sorry all the time. And knowing that's not the case. We're not looking for that shame, like we're looking to blast that kind of shame away, right? So we're looking for this ability to say, all right, I don't want to be shamed about ... Okay, I don't want to shame anyone about ... I want to then this, but the second part about that is the vulnerability. I want to be able to be open and be vulnerable so that I can experience what I can experience without the fear or less fear. Right? We can't be fearless, but we can fear less. I love that statement, and it carries me through so many parts of my life. So I will just kind of share where my brain is and what I'm thinking and where I'm at and why I'm there. Okay. And how reading this book, even though it was a really hard book to read, and there were times when I was reading it, I was like, I don't want to read one more story. This is awful. This is like it's so unyellow, right? So I was like, how do I do this? But so I had to balance that. Honestly, I had to balance like the hardness and the darkness, even though the story had triumph in it, right? I had to balance that with positivity and growth, whether it was a garden, the puppy, developing other parts of my rituals to enhance and nurture those hormones that we talked about in our last book. So I was balancing that. And then this other hard thing that's going on in my life, which needs a lot of vulnerability, a lot of shame resilience, a lot of opening up taboo subjects and going places, with people who I care about so much. So there's all those things going on as well. And I'm saying, all right, how do I be a beacon, right? How do I be a beacon to name the shame, name the guilt, name the remorse, name the sadness, name the grief, name the anger, all of the things that we learn when we go through the whole grief process. How do we take it and name that in a way that's going to maybe bring some yellow into the world, right? For these people who are going through it. Or maybe that trim tab on the boat where we're going in one direction and we got to like adjust a little and we got to get through it. So Brene Brown's book, Braving the Wilderness, was a game changer in my life. And in it, she talks about strong backs, right? Being strong, knowing you can do hard things. And that was such a reminder that we were built for resilience. So strong backs, soft front. I want to be vulnerable. And when I've gotten feedback from people that says, you know what, you tell people too much, you're too vulnerable, you're too open, you're too out there, you're too much, right? I have to say, all right, well, what do I choose? Right? I want to choose vulnerability. And I want to choose to be able to say to someone, here's how I'm feeling. Right. And say it. And here's what I've tried to do. Say it with no expectation of an outcome. So this has been a super hard exercise with my husband, right? Because he's not a big talker. And so sometimes I'll say, like, I'm feeling this way, dot, dot, dot. And he'll be like, okay, change the subject. He doesn't know how to deal with it. He does now know he doesn't have to solve it for me. I just have to name it and I have to talk about it, right? So there's that piece of it. So strong back, soft front, and then wild heart. And if we think about like this book and the wild heart, and we think about our lives and the decisions we make, and knowing that underneath it all, we have this heart. And if we look toward, our nature about wildness, like my daughter and I, when we were up in Vermont this past week, we were looking to buy a house at foreclosure. And we went for walks and we talked about the trees talking to each other and why we want to not have burning plastics up at the camp. And I'm thinking to myself, strong back, I want to stick up for something I believe in. Soft fronts, I know I'm going to be tortured about this. Wild hearts, but it's what we were like, our base of nature in this wildness about us. And like what part goes tamed and what part goes untamed. So anyway, so I'm going to wrap this up because I am off on as you can tell, a philosophical tangent today. I would love to hear what this book did for you and how it connected with you. All right. And knowing that it's hard, right? This is a hard book to read because however you look at it or you choose not to look at it, right? There's a lot of realities in this book, right? So we have to have that soft front, that open front, open to vulnerability and identifying what we own in here and what we don't own in here. But like, again, back to that white privilege. And so there's that piece, right? So that book stirred up a lot for me, but it also set the stage for those hard things that I need to be working on in my life right now. And right, we can do this. Like we can do hard things and it's not comfortable and it's not fun. And it's not like in our fantasy world, it's not what we would ever choose for ourselves. But life is worth it, right? So that last part, our brave hearts, right? Our wild hearts, we can do this and it's worth it because we've got these great big hearts that we need to share and we need to open up. We need. I hate it when I say we need because it's like I am bossing you around. I don't want to boss you around. I hope that there's something that resonates with something in you a little bit, right? Because that's all we do. Every book only gives us one nugget and then we move on. And I'm not sure what we want for next month. Does anybody have any suggestions? I think we're coming off of a really heavy month. So I think that we should possibly do something lighter, happier. I don't know. We just did a happy one. So I don't know. We went happy. We got, went hard. Now what do we got? I don't know. I will listen for suggestions from you all. I have a couple ideas, but we'll talk about it on Monday, right? Because Monday is the 31st. And so we'll pick it up and we'll talk about that on Monday. But I am open to suggestions. All right, my friends. Again, this was a heavy one. I'm sorry. I need to always tell you where I'm at because if we're going to do this daily, and if you're going to tune in daily, you need to know, right? You need to know that I'm doing hard things right now, and I'm going to remember the lessons I learned in here, and it's going to give me strength. All right, my friends. I hope that you have an amazing Memorial Day weekend. Now, I have to tell you a little story. I was born on the original Memorial Day, and I used to think that all of those parades were for me. And I would be like, it's my birthday. Where's my parade? And you know what? That was the best way to start like your life, right? Thinking you had a parade on your birthday. And, I think they changed it to the Mondays. I don't know, maybe when I was like 10 or 12. So still young enough to think they're for me, but old enough to know that they're not for me. And I'm like, Oh, well, it was a nice launch. So I will see you all on Monday. Make it an amazing weekend. Thank you so much.